Hi, and welcome to another quiet, sleepy journey through the slower corners of the past. Tonight, we're going to drift into a time long ago. A time before toothpaste, before showers, before indoor plumbing. Yes, we're going to explore why hygiene in medieval times was so much worse than you could ever imagine. But don't worry, nothing loud or shocking here. Just the slow crackle of a hearth fire, the hush of candlelight, and soft stories from the dusty pages of forgotten history. If you enjoy these long, cozy history tales, I'd love it if you gently tap that subscribe button. It helps keep this sleepy little corner of the internet alive. And I'm always curious, where are you watching from tonight? And what time is it there? Let me know down in the comments. It always amazes me to hear from so many time zones and quiet bedrooms around the world. So fluff your pillow, settle in deep, and let's slip into a world where hygiene in medieval times wasn't just unpleasant. It could be downright dangerous. Ready? Let's begin. The room is still. You lie in bed, quiet, listening to the slow sounds of morning. Somewhere outside, a crow calls once, then silence. A faint light is beginning to slip through the wooden shutters. It is pale and gray, like ash. You open your eyes. The bed beneath you is made of straw, stuffed into rough linen. It crunches softly as you shift your legs. The blanket on top is thick wool, scratchy against your skin. Your neck feels stiff. The room is cold. There is no warmth in the air, only the breath of winter creeping under the door. You sniff and smell dust and something else. The faint scent of smoke. Not fresh smoke, but old. A fire that died in the night. You sit up slowly. The wooden floor is uneven beneath your feet. Cold rises from the planks, and you pull the blanket tighter around your shoulders. Your night clothes are simple. A long flannel shirt worn thin at the elbows. It smells of the room dry, faintly smoky, and slightly sour. You realize you have not bathed in days. But that isn't strange here. In fact, in this village, in this time, almost no one bathes. There is a small washstand near the bed. On it sits a ceramic basin. The water inside is cloudy and still. Beside it, a cloth hangs, stiff with old use. You dip your fingers into the water. It's freezing. You flinch, but cup your hand and lift a little to your face. It smells faintly of the well, earthy, maybe even slightly rotten. You remember now, the well near the town square had been murky this week. Rain had fallen, and the streets overflowed, washing all kinds of things into the drains. The water doesn't feel clean, but it's all you have. You wet your face gently, wiping away the sleep and the thin film of dust. It does not make you feel fresh, only wet dot. This is how the day begins. Outside, your window, a cart rolls by. You hear the slow, heavy clatter of iron wheels on stone. A man coughs once, deep and rough. Somewhere, a dog barks. The village is waking. You move to the window and push open the shutters. Cold air rushes in. It carries the scent of smoke, not just from one fire, but from dozens. The smell wraps around everything. Even the wind smells dirty below. The street is muddy. Puddles sit in ruts left by wagons. A woman walks past with a basket of bread on her head. She wears a heavy shawl and boots caked in muck. Her skirt brushes the wet street. People here don't wash their clothes often. They wear them again and again until the fabric becomes soft with sweat and use. You notice the same about your own robe. You run your hand down the front and feel the stiff patches where food and ash have gathered. You'll wear it anyway. There's nothing else. There is no soap in your home. Not real soap, anyway. You might have lye or ash, something harsh. It would sting your hands. The villagers use ashes, sand, or sometimes herbs to rub on their skin, but only rarely. It isn't expected that you'll be clean. In fact, here, hygiene, in medieval times, is not what you know. It's not the way of showers or warm baths. It's something different, almost forgotten. People don't trust water anymore. They say it carries illness. They believe washing too often opens the pores and lets sickness in. You turn from the window and light a small candle. The flame flickers, warming the air only a little. The smoke curls toward the ceiling and leaves a black mark. Your boots are near the door. They are dry now, but you know they will be soaked with mud before noon. You step into them carefully. A bell rings somewhere, not loud, but steady. It is the bell that signals morning prayers. You're not expected to go, but it's a reminder. The town is alive now. Fires are being stoked. Bread is being baked. Smoke rises from every rooftop. You take your wooden bucket and step outside. The road is soft underfoot. Mud clings to your boots. You walk slowly toward the well. The sky above is still gray, though the light is growing stronger. Birds flutter. Between thatched roofs, a cat runs past, chasing something you can't see. The well is quiet. You wait your turn behind an old man who moves slowly. His hands shake as he lowers the rope. The bucket splashes, then disappears into darkness. You hear the water slosh far below. He pulls it up, dripping. The water is dark, slightly brown. He fills his jug and nods to you. You step forward and lower your own bucket. You carry it back carefully inside. You pour some into the basin. You think of using it to wash, but stop. It isn't clean. It's not even safe. It might only make you sick. So instead, you set the bucket down and warm your hands by the small fire. The warmth is thin. Your fingers still ache. This is how people live. No one expects you to be clean. No one offers a warm bath. In this place, in this time, the dirt becomes part of you. Even the rich don't bathe often. They use scented cloths, perfumes, oils. They hide the smells rather than wash them away. It's not laziness, it's fear. Water is dangerous. Baths are risky. They believe it opens the body to the plague, to chills, to unseen dangers, and so each day begins like this, wrapped in old wool, hands smelling of smoke and earth, water, fetched but rarely used. You sigh and sit beside the fire. Outside, the bell rings again, and inside, you begin to understand. This world has its own rules, its own fears, and why hygiene in medieval times was not just unpleasant. It was, quiet struggle repeated every day. Asterisk, the bell outside fades slowly, its final tone swallowed by the thick morning air. You stay seated beside the fire, your eyes half closed, watching the glow of the embers. The bucket of water rests untouched near your feet. You think again of using it to wash, but there's no comfort in that act, not today. Instead, you pick up a cloth and wipe a patch of soot from the mantle. It smears across the wood, darker now than before. You set the cloth aside, not cleaner, only moved. There's a knock at the door. Not urgent, just a few soft raps. You stand and walk across. The room, boots thudding against the floor. When you open the door, a boy stands there. Maybe 10 years old, barefoot, hair uncombed. He holds a small bundle of herbs. From my mother, he says. She says to boil these might help the air smell better. You nod and take the bundle. He runs off, feet slapping against the road. You close the door gently. The herbs smell. Sharp lavender, maybe some sage. You drop them into a small iron pot of water and hang it over the fire. The scent begins to rise, mixing with smoke and damp wool. It's not much, but it helps. You sit again, wrapping your cloak tighter. The steam warms your face. In a few minutes, it will settle into the air, covering some of the other smells. Wet wood, mold in the corner, the lingering scent of old meat. In this place, everything carries a smell. Nothing is ever fresh. You glance toward the small mirror nailed to the wall. Your reflection is faint. The glass is cloudy, edges chipped. Your face looks pale in the low light. The skin feels dry. Your fingers come away gray with ash dot. No one will judge you. They look the same dot you think of the others in the village. The baker always dusted with flour. The smith streaked with soot and sweat. The priest in robes that haven't been washed. In months, the fabric stiff at the cuffs. This is life here. It isn't unclean by choice. It's the world as it is. You wonder when the last real bath was taken. A full one. Not just a rinse or a cloth across the face, but hot water, soap, a quiet place to sit and scrub away the weight of days. You've heard stories that nobles have bathtubs, that some even warm the water with coals, that they sit in perfumed oils with servants pouring water over their backs. But even that is rare. Even they worry. They fear sickness more than they long for comfort. In some places, they say, bathhouses were shut down. Too dangerous. People caught fevers there. Not because of the water, but because of the crowding, the heat, the shared space. And so, fear grew. Water, once holy and healing, became suspect. There were times, long before now, when people believed in bathing, when clean skin was a sign of health. But that time passed. Now, dirt is normal. And no one speaks of soap. You stand and lift the pot from the fire. The herbs have darkened. The steam is thick and sweet. You set the pot near the window, and a breeze catches the scent, pulling it out into the street. For a moment, the room smells almost clean. A knock again. This time, it's your neighbor, an older woman with a scarf tied tight around her hair. She doesn't come inside, just leans in. Church says the bishop's coming through next week, she says. They want the square swept. You nod. And you'll need to help wash the steps if we can. You blink. With what water? You asked gently. She shrugs. Ash and cloth. The usual. Then she's gone. You lean against the doorframe, watching her walk away. She steps carefully, her shoes patched and worn. Behind her, smoke curls from chimneys, thick and gray, filling the sky with a slow-moving haze. You look down at your hands. They're stained with wood smoke and dust. Under your nails, a dark line. You rub your fingers together, but it doesn't come off. You go back inside and pour a little of the herb water into a bowl. You dip the cloth again and begin to wipe. Your arms, the warmth feels nice. You clean your neck, your hands, your face again. It's not enough to change how you feel, but it softens something inside you. The air grows still again. You sit by the window and rest your chin on your knees. You remember when you first arrived in this village. Everything felt heavy. The smells, the layers of clothes, the way people avoided talking of illness. You'd tried to keep clean at first. You washed your feet every night, scrubbed your sleeves, kept a ribbon of soap hidden in your trunk. But that was a long time ago. The soap is gone now, and no one else noticed the difference. Instead, you adapted, learned to wear the same dress 3 days in a row, learned to sleep in a bed that smelled of smoke and straw. Learned that here. Why hygiene in medieval times felt like a burden rather than a blessing. It changed the way you see things. Clean doesn't mean the same here. It means survival. It means not standing out. It means doing what everyone else does. No more, no less. You close your eyes, listening again to the village sounds. A man shouting in the distance. A bucket being dropped. Hooves on wet stone. The rattle of a wooden cart, and under it all, the steady breath of the fire. Still burning in the hearth. You stay there, quiet, letting the world drift past you. The smell of herbs, the flicker of candlelight, the weight of another day in a time where no one truly feels clean. And slowly, you begin to understand something deeper, that here, the dirt and the smoke are not just part of life. They are life. Asterisk, the light outside is changing again. Not brighter, just different. More silver. Now, less gray. You know, it must be late morning. The sun never truly shines. Here it hides behind a sky that always looks like wet cloth, but time still moves. And your stomach reminds you with a slow ache. You rise and go to the cupboard, which is nothing more than a wooden crate nailed into the wall. Inside are 2 small loaves of bread, hard and stale, and a cloth-wrapped piece of dried meat. You tear a bit of bread and chew. It's dry. It scratches your throat. You sip a little water to soften it, but the water still tastes of moss and soil. You force it down anyway. You don't think of brushing your teeth. No one here does. Tooth powders exist, but only for the wealthy. Some use crushed charcoal or ground herbs, but not often. Instead, people rinse their mouths with wine or vinegar if they can. Most just don't. Teeth fall out early. Gums bleed. It's accepted. You remember seeing a man once, grinning with only 2 teeth in his whole mouth. He wasn't ashamed. He laughed louder than anyone else. You chew slowly and swallow. Your jaw aches slightly. Your hands rest in your lap. Fingers stained with dirt and ash. You rub them on your dress without thinking. It doesn't matter. The fabric is already marked. You'll wear it again tomorrow. A knock sounds again, this time faster. You cross the room and open the door. It's Mary, the blacksmith's daughter. Her cheeks are flushed from running. There's a boy sick at the apothecary, she says breathlessly. They think it's the fever. Your chest tightens. Fever is the word no one likes to say. It moves through towns like smoke, invisible, touching everything. People whisper about it. They tie herbs above doors. They draw chalk symbols on walls, but nothing stops it. You nod and grab your shawl. You don't expect to help much, but people gather during illness. Some bring cloths, some bring food. Some simply come to listen and pray. It's part of village life. You follow Mary down the lane. Mud splashes your boots. You pass neighbors who look at you with tired eyes. No one is panicking. Not yet. But there is a stillness in the air, awaiting. The apothecary's shop is small and dark, filled with glass jars and wooden boxes. The boy lies on a cot in the corner. He's pale and sweating. His mother sits beside him, holding a damp rag to his forehead. You can smell. It's the fever smell. Sharp, sour. It clings to the walls. Someone is boiling vinegar in a pot. They believe the steam can clean the air. You breathe it in, and it stings. Your nose, there is no medicine. Not really. Just herbs. Maybe some powdered bark or old honey. They'll try anything. They'll burn rosemary, hang garlic, scatter salt, and they'll hope. You kneel beside the mother and offer a cloth. She doesn't speak, just nods. You dip it in water and press it to the boy's hand. His skin is too warm around the room. Others sit silently. They don't want to get too close, but they won't leave either. You're all here, waiting together. There's a sense of duty in it. The apothecary moves among the jars, muttering to himself. He doesn't touch the boy, just prepares a tea. Something bitter and hot. No one expects a miracle. You stay until dusk begins to creep into the windows. The boy is still breathing, still sweating. Nothing has changed. You rise and step outside. The air feels thick, like cloth soaked in oil. You breathe carefully. The walk home is slow. Lamps are being lit, noisy flames behind cloudy glass. The village glows dimly, like a lantern with a weak flame. At your door, you stop. The herbs by the window have dried. The pot has cooled. You step inside and feel the room's silence return to you. It settles on your shoulders like a heavy coat. You light your candle. The flame dances in the draft. Your hands are cold again. You think of water. The bucket is still full. You take a small tin cup and sip from it, not because you're thirsty, but because it feels like something to do. The taste has worsened, or maybe you're just noticing it more now. You set the cup down, you think about washing again, but the cloth is dirty, the water is too, and you're tired. You sit by the fire and let your eyes close. Not to sleep, just to rest. A mouse scratches behind the wall. You can hear it clearly. In a quiet room, everything seems louder. The tick of the wood, the soft settling of the straw in your bed, your own breath. You stretch your legs and lean back. The shawl around your shoulders smells like smoke and old wool. You pull it tighter. Tomorrow will be the same water, the same clothes, the same cautious steps through muddy streets, and you wonder again, just for a moment, why hygiene in medieval times ever fell away. It became fear instead of comfort. But the answers don't come. They never do. You only know that here, now. This is what survival looks like. Not shining skin or clean hands, but staying warm, staying dry, staying unseen by the sickness that slips from door to door. You draw your knees up beneath the blanket and listen. Whisper, the fire has burned down again. Only a faint glow pulses from the embers beneath the ash. You don't stir for a long time. Just breathe, softly, listening to the slow crackle of heat giving in to the cold. Eventually, you rise, not quickly. Air in the room is too still for that. You move with care, the way people do when their bodies are not quite awake. But the day insists anyway. Outside the window, the world is quiet. A thin mist floats above the ground, curling around the wheel ruts in the muddy road. The village hasn't yet begun to stir. No bells, no clatter of buckets, just birds, faint in the distance. Calling through the fog, you open the door and step outside. Your boots press into soft ground. Everything is damp again, always damp. The scent of earth is strong here in the morning, rich and heavy, and beneath it, that familiar undertone: sweat, soot, animal waste, smoke. A medieval perfume no one ever mentions. You walk slowly toward the well. It sits in the middle of the square, covered with a warped wooden lid. The rope creaks as you lower the bucket down. When it hits the water, the splash echoes up like a voice from somewhere below. You lift the handle. It's heavier than you remember. You wince slightly as your arms strain. Water, when you can get it, is a blessing, but also a burden. You feel you're smaller, pale, and begin the walk back. As you pass a house, a man steps outside and nods. His shirt is already wet at the collar, sweat mixing with the dust from his morning chores. He carries a spade, heading toward the fields. He doesn't look freshly washed, but neither do you. No one does. At home, you set the pail by the hearth. You pour a little into a cracked basin and dip your fingers in. The water is cold. You splash it onto your face and neck, just enough to wake you. This as close as you'll come to bathing. Today, baths are for the rare moments, wedding, perhaps, or after a birth. But even then, only if the weather is kind. Heating enough water is a task that takes hours. And besides, many believe that opening your pores too much invites illness in, so people skip it. A quick rinse, a rub with a dry cloth, a sprig of herbs in the hair to mask the scent, and life continues. You dry your hands on the edge of your dress. You hear footsteps in the lane again. A child runs past, chasing a dog. Laughter echoes for just a second. It sounds out of place here, but it makes you smile faintly. You sit by the hearth and begin peeling a turnip for breakfast. The knife is dull. You work slowly, watching the skin curl away in strips. The fire groans a little as you feed it more wood. In the corner, your cloak hangs on a nail. It's still damp from yesterday's rain. You think about clothes, how hard it is to keep them clean. There's no soap left in your cupboard, not even ash soap. You could try washing them in the stream again, but the last time you did, they came out smelling worse. The fabric doesn't dry fully in this weather. It turns sour, heavy. Some women in the next town make lye from ashes and rainwater. They use it to scrub their aprons until their fingers crack from the burn. But that's not something you've tried yet. Your hands are already rough. You don't need them raw. You rub your fingertips together. They're cracked at the knuckles, faintly bleeding. You wrap them in cloth and keep peeling. In the afternoon, a cart arrives. It's carrying barrels from the brewer's shed. The man pulling it calls out to you. "Water's off color in the west side wells," he says. "Better boil what you've got." You not again. That's how news travels here. Not letters, not bells. Just voices from carts and doors and fields. You tip your head out and ask, "Anyone sick?" "Not yet," he says, but he doesn't smile. You shut the door slowly. That's the thing about hygiene here. It isn't about feeling clean, it's about avoiding death. You don't scrub your skin because it feels good. You do it because someone once said it might stop the fever. You don't change your clothes because you want to look nice. You do it because lice and fleas carry things too small to see. You don't touch your face. You don't eat with dirty fingers. You burn old straw. Bedding, you hang rosemary in the rafters. You draw circles on the floor with salt, not because you believe it will save you, but because not doing it feels worse. The idea of why hygiene in medieval times matter. It was never about comfort. It was fear wrapped in ritual. You throw the peelings into the fire. They hiss and curl into smoke. Then you step outside again, your cloak drawn around your shoulders. The village is alive now, not loud, just awake. You see a woman washing linens in a wooden tub, her hands red from the cold water. A child carrying a chamber pot to the edge of the woods, wrinkling his nose as he goes. A man scraping muck from his boots onto a stone at his doorstep. Each action simple, repetitive, every day the same. A way to keep chaos back. A way to pretend you have control over what might come through the air, or the water, or the bite of a flea. You walk down the path past the baker's hut. The smell of burning flour and yeast is thick. He's cleaned his hands on his apron, but they're still streaked with gray. You pass the priest, too. He's muttering to himself, sprinkling the walkway with stale ale, his version of a blessing. You don't stop. You don't need anything from him today. You just keep walking, watching, smelling, listening. Listening, and when you return home, the water in the pail is already settling. Bits of dirt have sunk to the bottom. The surface looks clear. You will use it carefully, boil it, maybe even warm enough to rinse your arms again tonight. But not more than that. Baths are still a dream, and the scent of smoke and damp. Wool will still cling to you as you sleep. Asterisk, you're sitting by the fire, again, wrapping your shawl. Tighter as the cold begins to stretch its fingers into the cottage. It's not the kind of cold that bites sharply, but the kind that sinks into your clothes, into the floor, into your bones. The flame flickers low. You nudge another stick into place with the iron poker. It doesn't catch right away, but you're used to waiting. Everything here is slow. Outside, the village carries on. You can hear it. The thud of hooves, the creak of cartwheels, the occasional clang of a blacksmith's hammer echoing through the trees. Life doesn't stop just because it's cold or dirty or hard. It never does. You stretch your legs in front of the hearth and breathe in the faint smoke curling from the damp logs. It has a sour edge, half-burned bark, and damped moss. You've stopped noticing it most days. It's just the scent of the season. You lean back and let your eyes close for a moment. Your mind drifts to the last market day. You remember the crowd, the muddied cloaks, the smell of animals and leather and sweat. People pressed close, talking, trading, shouting softly through scarf-covered mouths, not out of politeness, but because breath carried illness. There was a man selling soap, rare stuff, wrapped in oiled paper. He said it came from the coast, made from tallow and herbs. Lavender, maybe, or sage. But the price was too high. Soap is a kind of luxury here. Some households make their own, boiling fat and ashes in great pots behind their sheds. The smell lingers for days. Not everyone can stand it. Not everyone bothers. Instead, they rely on old cloths, straw brooms, and vinegar. For most, that's the entire cleaning ritual. There was another stall, too. A woman with a basket of combs carved from horn. You watched her for a long time as she picked at her scalp with one clearing out lice. No shame, just life. The truth is, everyone has them. Why hygiene in medieval times felt like a losing battle was because it was lice, fleas, worms. There was no winning, just enduring. Just pretending the scratching was from wool, or the cold, or imagination. You shift again, in your seat, and rub the back of your neck, remembering that market crowd. Your skin still itches when you think about it. It's nearly midday now. The sunlight outside is pale and watery. It spills through the smudged window panes, making everything inside your cottage glow in soft grays. You decide to tidy, not clean dash, just dot. Arrange that you pick up the wooden cups and bowls scattered across the table. Some still smell faintly of broth. You rinse them in the basin with a little of your saved water and dry them with the edge of your apron. It doesn't help much, but at least it feels like doing something. Dust has gathered on the sill again. You wipe it with your sleeve. You shake out the blanket draped over the stool and watch the flecks of straw and ash fall to the ground. You sweep them toward the door with your foot. The broom is just a bundle of sticks tied with twine. It doesn't work well, but it's all you have. Later, you take your boots outside and beat them against the post. Clumps of dried mud fall away. You turn them over in your hands and sigh. The soles are softening. They'll need repair soon, or replacement. But leather's hard to come by unless you know. Someone at the tannery, and no one wants to visit the tannery. The stink carries for miles, boiling animal skins, soaked in urine and dung it, a place you only go when you have to. The people who work there carry the smell with them. It settles into their skin, their breath. They're used to being avoided. Still, you admire them. They do what others won't. That's true of a lot of people here. The gong farmers who clear out the privis. The washerwomen who wade into icy rivers with baskets full of stained cloth. The midwives who clean with vinegar and old wine and whispers to keep away death. You think of them sometimes when you're tired of your own dirt. When your fingers are stiff and your feet sore and your hair heavy with old oils, you stand at the doorway and look at the road again. Someone is carrying buckets from the well. A woman you know by name, but not by voice. Her sleeves are rolled high, and her face is smeared with soot from tending her hearth. She doesn't notice you watching. She just walks, slowly, balancing the weight with her hips behind her. A man pushes a wheelbarrow full of manure toward the fields, and behind him, two children squat by the ditch, watching frogs or worms or something else that makes them laugh. Their hands are covered in mud. They don't care. You don't either, because out here, this is what life is. Messy, damp, tired, real. You close the door softly and return to your seat by the fire. Ah, pot of water hangs from the hook above the hearth. You light a few pieces of kindling and wait. Maybe you'll make a broth. Maybe just tea, if there are any herbs left. The warmth begins to rise again. Slowly, you wrap your shawl around your shoulders and let yourself imagine what it might have felt like to be truly clean, to soak in warm water scented with rose petals, to step onto a soft rug, to dry your hair with linen instead of letting it hang wet and cold. You smile faintly. It's a thought, a soft one, but not for today. Today, the fire crackles, the pot steams, and your hands rest quietly in your lap. The steam from the pot is rising now, curling in long, slow tendrils that dance above the hearth. You sit still, just watching it, the way someone might watch a candle flicker or a feather drift. It's a kind of quiet you don't often get in this world. A kind that lets your shoulders soften. A kind that lets your thoughts stretch out like sleepy cats before a warm fire. You reach for the ladle and stir gently. The smell of thyme and something earthy fills the air, just a hint. Maybe dried leek or the root yew, foraged last week near the edge of the woods. That place is still in your mind. The woods are always darker than they should be. Not frightening, just muffled, like the world outside has stopped for a while. The ground there is soft, the trees close together, and the stream that runs through it is brown and shallow. You know the stones by heart now. The curved one that looks like a jawbone. The flat one you sit on when your feet ache. You collect. Water there sometimes, not because it's clean. It's not. But because it's yours. Away from the others. Away from the well, where everyone talks and shares the same tin cup. Sometimes you pretend the stream is clear, that the water sparkles and tastes like morning wind, that you could dip your hands in it and come away different, but you don't dip your hands, not without gloves. You learned that last year. There was a sickness brief, but cruel. The healer blamed it on the stream, said something had died upstream, something large, maybe a boar. No one looked too closely after that. People kept to boiled water only. You lift the ladle to your lips now and blow gently. The heat is comforting. You sip salt, root, leaf. It's nothing special, but it tastes like home. And it feels clean, not because it is, but because it's warm. Because it's yours. You place the ladle back. From outside, you hear a woman calling to her child. The sound floats in on the breeze through a gap in your window. Her voice is firm, but not angry, just tired. Everyone is tired. There's been rain for days now, and the mud in the lane has turned slick and thick. Carts get stuck. Boots sink. Children slip and laugh while their mothers frown and drag them upright again. There's no escaping the dirt, not here, not ever. And it's not just outside, inside. Two grit between floorboards, soot in your bedclothes, dust that settles no matter how often you brush it away. You stopped trying to fight it long ago. Now, you just try to manage it, to keep it in its place. You take a cloth and wipe the edge of the table. The grain of the wood is rough. There's a crack near the corner where crumbs collect. You poke them free with your fingernail and flick them into the fire. The hearth is still your cleanest space. You think of all the tools people use to scrub things. Rushes and bristle brushes, cloths dipped in vinegar or soaked in wine, ash paste, birch, oil, river sand. But none of it really works, not for long. Everything gets dirty again. That's why people hang herbs over their doors. That's why they burn rosemary or lavender or garlic on cold nights. That's why some even carve charms into their lintels, or bury dried flowers beneath the threshold to keep the rot from creeping in. Because dirt isn't just dirt here. It's fear, it's sickness, it's death in disguise. Why hygiene in medieval times became a kind of superstition is easy to see. You clean not because it works, but because not cleaning feels like inviting misfortune. You hear footsteps outside, again heavier. This time, you rise, walk to the door, and peer out. A man is hauling a cart down the road. its wheels thick with clay. Behind him are barrels, probably for waste. You recognize the red mark painted on the side. It's the gong farmer's symbol. No one talks to the gong farmer unless they have to. He passes your house without a glance. You nod just a little and return to the warmth inside. The gong pit is far from the village, tucked behind the trees and downwind. You've only seen it once, enough to never go back. The stench was like nothing else, deep, hot, wet. It clung to your clothes, to your hair, to your thoughts. It made your throat close and your eyes water. And yet, someone has to do it. You admire him. In a way, he knows what he is. He doesn't pretend. Back inside, the broth is bubbling now. You pour a little into a cracked bowl and sip slowly. The warmth spreads through your chest and into your limbs. The fire pops. A small spark leaps and dies. You look around your little room. The walls are patched, the floor uneven, but it's yours. The blankets smell faintly of smoke and straw. A spider crawls across the ceiling beam, slowly, without purpose. You don't mind. This is a place where things are allowed to be a little broken, a little dirty, a little real. You set your bowl down and pull your shawl tighter. Night will come. Again soon, and with it, another wash in cold water. Another scrape of the cloth. Another night in sheets that haven't been boiled in months. And still, you will sleep. Because sleep is the one clean thing you have left. Night returns the way it always does, slowly, without asking, without pause. The light fades behind the hills, and your little cottage sinks into its usual hush. There are no clocks here, no ticking hands or glowing numbers, just the quiet. Understanding that it's time to close the shutters, time to let the fire shrink, time to rest. You move about softly, like a shadow. The bowl has been rinsed and set upside down on the shelf. The hearth swept with your hand broom. The sleeping mat near the wall is smoothed with your palm. Your shawl is hung on the same peg it always hangs from. There's comfort in this knowing where things are, and knowing they'll be there tomorrow. Your fingers touch the fabric of your night smock. It smells faintly of earth and smoke, and something green-dried bay leaf, maybe, which you sometimes tuck into the corners of the trunk where you keep your clothes. It doesn't keep out the damp, but it softens the smell of time. You sit down slowly on the mat, listening to the sound of your knees. The soft creak, the quiet pop. They've always done that. You don't mind. Outside, the village has gone still. You can hear an owl calling far off in the trees. Then silence again. The kind that has weight to it. Your eyes drift to the little basin near the door. There's a cloth resting over the rim, stiff with old soap. You lift it gently and wet it with the water you warmed earlier. It's time for your wash. Not a full one knot in this chill. Just the hands, the face, behind the ears, enough to feel. Less worn, the cloth is cold against your skin at first. You press it to your cheeks, breathing slowly. The scent of the soap has faded, but it's still there, faint, ghost-like. Reminds you of your grandmother's hands and the way she used to wash you, the same way, seated near a fire, just like this one. You wash without hurry. The water trickles down your wrists and soaks the cuff of your sleeve. You dab at your neck, then your forehead. There's no mirror here, but you know the lines of your face well enough. You could draw them in the dark dot as you wring the cloth out and lay it flat to dry. You feel a small kind of peace settle in. Not clean, not really, but quieter, lighter dot. It's strange, you think, how a little water can feel like a blessing, even when it's cold, even when it doesn't take the dirt away. It's the act of it, the ritual, that matters. You lie back now on your bedding. The blanket is heavy and smells of sheep's wool. It's scratchy at the edges, but warm. You pull it up to your chin and tuck your hands beneath. Above you, the thatch of the ceiling is dark with soot. Little drifts of dust hang in the corners where spiders build their homes. You watch them for a while, your mind softening. You wonder if people will ever live differently. If, far in the future, someone will have warm water every day. A room that smells like flowers. A comb that never finds lice. A home where dust doesn't settle in layers. You wonder if someone like that would look back at you, lying here on straw and linen, and feel sorrow, or gratitude, or nothing at all. Your eyes grow heavy, but before you sleep, a memory comes to you. It was a spring day, not long ago. You were walking back from the market with a small bundle of bread, onions, a twist of salt. You passed by the river and saw a young girl bathing in the SHALLOWS. Not out of vanity, just necessity. She had a small cloth and was scrubbing behind her knees with fierce determination. Her hair was tied up with twine. Her dress lay folded on a rock, drying in the sun. She didn't see you. You stopped and watched her for a moment, not because you were curious, but because the scene felt rare. A moment of purity in a place where everything is touched by grime. You'd forgotten that memory, but tonight it returns like a feather on the wind. She looked peaceful. Back here, your own fire has shrunk to a glow. It flickers behind the grate, casting gentle shadows on the walls. You close your eyes, and for a moment, you hear only the soft sound of your own breathing and the occasional crack of ember, and somehow, this too feels like cleansing. You do not have perfume or porcelain. You do not have a marble bath or velvet towels. You have ash and linen. You have warmth and a roof and a night that welcomes you home, and that, perhaps, is enough. After all, why hygiene in medieval times was worse than you can imagine isn't just about filth. It's about what people endured, what they accepted, and what they still found a way to call life. You breathe in a slow, deep breath, and the weight of the world loosens just a little. Somewhere outside, the wind turns. A new breeze moves through the trees. It carries with it the scent of moss and old leaves, and maybe, just maybe, the promise of rain. But in here, there is 5AREHT and sleep. Asterisk morning returns like a whisper, not with a jolt or a blaze, but softly, quietly. You open your eyes to a pale gray light spilling through the cracks in the shutters. It touches the floorboards first, then climbs slowly across the wool blanket covering your legs. The fire has gone out. Only a few sleeping coals remain, barely warm beneath their coat of ash. You reach for the iron poker and stir them gently. A few sparks rise, but they fade before they can catch. You'll need kindling. With slow movements, you rise from the mat. Your body feels stiff, not sore, just held in place by sleep. You stretch a little, listening to the tiny crackle of your joints at the door. The bucket waits. You lift it and step outside into the chill of a new day. The air smells of wet leaves and wood smoke. Crows call from the trees beyond the path. Somewhere, a dog barks once and then is quiet. The path to the well is familiar. You don't think, as you walk, it's your feet know where to go. Past the crooked fence, over the flat stones near the mossy wall, through the patch where the earth never quite dries. You pass no one. It's still early. At the well, you lower the bucket with care, listening to the echoing splash below. The rope creaks, handle squeaks. You wind it back up and pour the cold water into your pail. It's heavier than you remember. You walk home slowly, back inside. You set the bucket by the hearth and crouch to build the fire again. A few twigs, a curl of bark, a breath of hope. It catches, eventually. You warm your hands over the new flame dot. As it grows, so does the sound of the village. Footsteps, voices, hooves on the sea OBBLEs, and then the clatter of wooden shoes hurrying down the road, children on errands. You hear laughter, then scolding, then silence again. You begin your wash the same way as yesterday. A cloth, cold water, no soap, not today. You wipe your face and hands, press the cloth to your neck. You scrub behind your ears. Your grandmother's words echo in your mind, always behind the ears. No matter what, it helps. Not much, but enough to feel a little more present in your own skin. In this world, cleanliness is a dream you touch for a moment each day. A small ritual, a quiet rebellion against the dust and the damp. The house needs sweeping. You take the broom and begin in one corner, brushing out the grit and ashes from under the table. Bits of leaf, a stray thread, an old crumb. You gather it into a pile and scoop it onto a broken plate. Then toss it outside for the birds. They're waiting, as they always are. Little brown creatures with bright eyes, hopping near the steps. They know your routine better than you do. Back inside, you light a candle for the corner shelf. Its scent is faint, but sweet, something herbal. Rosemary, maybe, or beeswax and thyme. You think about what you know of other homes. Some families hang dried flowers from their beams, bundles of lavender or sage, meant to ward off the stench. Others place vinegar-soaked cloths in their windows to keep illness at bay. And many keep rushes on the floor, not just for comfort, but to hide the filth. Cleanliness isn't what it is now. There's no daily bath, no fresh towels, no sweet soap waiting beside a polished sink. Instead, it's layers of fabric, hands scrubbed raw with lye, and feet rinsed in cold rainwater when luck allows. A proper bath is rare, maybe once a season. You remember your last one. It was winter, still early spring, perhaps. The bath was a wooden tub hauled into the center of the room. Water was heated over the fire in heavy pots and poured in little by little. It took nearly an hour just to fill. The thing dot by the time it was ready. The first water was already cooling. You lowered yourself in with care, wincing at the heat, then at the cold. Your skin prickled. The water went gray quickly. There was no drain, just a bucket at the end to haul it back out. One slow scoop at a time. No one else used it after you. That was the gift of going first. Others weren't so lucky. You've heard. Story 7. 8 people to a tub, each taking turns. The youngest last. By then, the water is thick with the day. It smells like skin and ash and something else, something harder to name. You think of those who live near rivers. They wash when they can not go deep, shivering, eyes darting in case of watching eyes. Sometimes they bring soap, sometimes just a cloth, sometimes just their hands. You sip from a cup of boiled water and sit near the fire, drying your feet with a worn scrap of linen. The smoke curls around you like a shawl. The sun has climbed a little higher, and still you feel unwashed, not just your skin, but the air, the floor, the day itself. And yet, this is what life means in a time like this. This effort, this choosing to make a place livable, even if it never truly feels clean. Even the castles, the great halls, with their banners and tapestries, have their share of filth. Rats beneath the boards, soot in the curtains, servants pouring chamber pot into the moat. No one escapes it. Not the farmer, not the priest, not the lady in silks. Everyone wakes up to the same cold floor and the same question: how much dirt can we live with? You finish drying your feet and wrap them in fresh wool socks. Not clean, perhaps, but new to you. And you smile just a little, because sometimes a small act is the only act you have, and that is enough. Asterisk, the day stretches on, slow and wide. Nothing hurries here, not the light as it slides across the table, not the wind pressing softly against the shuttered windows. Even time seems to drag its feet in this part of the world. You are sitting by the hearth again, this time sewing. A little patch on your sleeve, a hole where the elbow wore thin. Your thread is rough, pulled from an older hem. It doesn't match, not really, but it will hold. That's what matters. There's a scent in the air, today milder than the usual. Coal smoke. Someone nearby must be boiling rosemary or mint, maybe. People sometimes do that when someone in the family is sick. The steam is said to carry healing. You pause and breathe it in. It doesn't make the room feel cleaner, but it distracts the nose. And in this time, that counts for more than most would think. You glance at the door. There's a pile of laundry, waiting there if it can be called laundry. A few shirts, a towel, some linen wraps and under things, all stiff with use. You've been meaning to wash them for days now, but water takes effort, and so does scrubbing. Still, it can't wait much longer. You gather the bundle and tuck it into a wicker basket. The path to the stream is muddy today, and you slide a little on the slope. But the sun is out, and the trees offer a cool shade. When you reach the water, you kneel on a flat stone and dip the first piece into the stream. The cold rushes through. The fabric you scrub with a little ash and a smooth stone. There's no soap, only what you make from your own fire. The gray smear of something bitter, gritty, and rough. You rub it into the cloth, rinse it, then do it again. Your hands go numb quickly, but you don't stop. There is a rhythm to it. Dip, scrub, wring, dip, again. Sometimes you hum a tune your mother used to sing. You can't remember the words, but the melody is enough. As you work, others arrive. A woman with a child on her hip, an older man with a bent back and a sack of rags, a girl no older than 12 with sleeves rolled past her elbows, already red from the water. No one speaks much, just nods and grunts and shared glances. Washing clothes is a quiet business. There's no joy in it, just a duty done over and over. But when the wind moves just right, you can pretend the stream is clearer than it is, that the rags in your hands once smelled of lavender. You finish one shirt, then another. By the time the basket is full again, your fingers are wrinkled and raw. You rise slowly, the weight of the wet cloth heavy on your hip. The others keep working. One offers you a small smile. You nod in return. Back home, the lines are already set up, rope stretched between the eaves and the tree. You drape each piece of clothing carefully, smoothing them out so the wrinkles don't stiffen. A drop of water slides down your arm and soaks into your cuff. The sun will dry them by evening, if the weather holds. But they'll never be soft, not the way people imagine. No fabric softener here, just wind, smoke, and hope. You sit again on your stool and pour yourself a cup of warm broth. It tastes of leek and bone, and something slightly burnt. But it fills your stomach and warms your chest. You think of the bathhouses you've heard about in the city, places where people gather to soak in warm water, to be scrubbed by strangers, to smell of flowers and oils. You've never been too far, too costly, and not entirely safe, people say. Too many people in one place, too many chances for sickness to pass from hand to hand. Still, you wonder what it might be like to feel clean for more than a few hours. Not just clean of dirt, but of the air itself. The weight of living in a time when washing is a luxury and filth is just part of life. Even the nobility cannot escape it. Their gowns trap heat, their wigs collect lice, their perfumes mask but never remove. A garden of smells layered over the same rot. Cleanliness, in truth, is rare, not because people don't want it, but because the world doesn't allow it. You look around your small room. The broom leans where you left it. The bucket of water still half full. the basin on the shelf, waiting for the evening's wash. You light another candle and watch the flame catch. It flickers, dances, then settles into a steady glow. The scent it gives off is faintly sweet, and suddenly you feel proud, not for having scrubbed the shirts or boiled the broth, but for making a space where you can breathe, where you can sit, where you can light a single flame and call it your own. Because in a world where hygiene is difficult, even impossible at times, you have chosen care again and again, and that is something. Evening drapes itself over the village like a worn-out cloak. The shadows grow longer, stretching across the floor in crooked lines. The golden light of sunset slips past your windows and paints the room in a sleepy warmth. Outside, the birds have gone quiet. A breeze rattles the shutters, and somewhere down the lane, you hear the clatter of someone bringing in their goat for the night. You move slowly now, your limbs heavy from the day. There's a quiet sort of satisfaction in the stillness. Not everything got done, but enough did. The clothes you hung are nearly dry. You check them gently with your fingers, lifting one sleeve to your face. It smells like the outdoors wind, smoke, and damp wood. Not fresh, not clean in the modern sense, but better, lighter. The cloth is stiff, but no longer grimy. You fold each piece carefully and place them back in the wooden chest. That little chest where you keep the few garments you own. A linen shift, a woolen smock, a pair of stockings you mended last week with the tiniest stitch you could manage. It's not much, but it's yours. Tonight, you light 2 candles instead of one, a small luxury. One for the table, one for the corner near your bed. Their glow warms the dark corners and makes the space feel a little softer. The flames flicker in the draft. You cup your hands around one and whisper a tiny wish, not for riches or change, but simply that tomorrow's water will be clear and the wind mild. Your feet are cold. You tuck them under the blanket and pull the shawl around your shoulders. The warmth is enough. Sometimes you imagine what it would be like to step into a bathhouse from some other time. One with polished marble floors and warm steam curling through the air. To undress in a quiet room, to let the heat soak into your bones, to lie back and close your eyes as clean water washes everything away. But even in those dreams, you always return here to your little room, to your wool blanket, to the creak of the floorboards and the scent of the hearth, because this is where your story lives. You think about how others live, not just here, but in the next town over, how their cleaning looks different. You've heard of people who share one basin among 5, one cloth, one bar of soap rationed out with care. Sometimes they boil herbs, sometimes they rub sand on their skin and rinse with cold stream water. The rituals vary, but the struggle does not. People do what they can to feel a little better. Less worn. And then there are the children. You remember seeing one today's barefoot, his tunic too short, his face streaked with soot. He was chasing a chicken near the bakery, laughing, his nose running. No one stopped him. No one scolded. It's just life. No one expects a child to be spotless. Not when there's no running water. Not when baths are done in barrels and warmed by firewood, too precious to waste. But you wonder what that child will remember when he's older. Will he think of dirt as normal, or as something he fought quietly with a damp cloth every evening? Before sleep, the line between comfort and discomfort is so thin. A clean cup, a dry towel, a comb with no missing teeth. These things are tiny victories. You look over at your basin again, now empty. Tomorrow you'll rinse it. You'll gather fresh water, and maybe if the weather is warm enough, wash your hair in the stream. It takes time to dry, and the wind chills fast here, but it's worth it. The feeling of it, the weight of your hair, clean and heavy against your back. You think of those in higher places, nobles, courtiers, people who wear powdered wigs and laced collars, people who dab perfume on their wrists instead of soap. Their cleanliness is a mask hiding sweat with rose water, covering lice with curls. They don't bathe often either, but they pretend better. And the pretending works. If you smell like lavender and look like silk, no one asks how often you scrub your feet, but you wash because you must, because the soot clings, because the air is thick, because if you didn't, the dust would become part of you, and not in the poetic way. The candle on your table burns low. You blow it out gently, watching the smoke curl up toward the ceiling. The other candle stays lit just a while longer, enough to give you company before sleep. Your eyes feel heavy. The blanket is pulled to your chin. The wind outside is picking up, but your shutters are strong. You hear it rattle against the wood, like fingers drumming softly. It doesn't frighten you. Instead, you listen to the sound of weather, to the quiet in your bones, to the stillness earned by a long day, and in that stillness, a strange kind of peace. You are not spotless. You are not fresh, but you are cared for by your own hands, by your small efforts, by the rituals that hold your life together, even when everything else feels uncertain. And that, perhaps, is what hygiene truly meant in this time. Not perfection, but intention. The wind quiets sometime after midnight. You don't know when exactly. It's one of those moments that passes unnoticed, like a candle running out or a yawn half finished. 1 minute, the world is rattling its shutters, and the next, ... stillness. You're awake, but not truly. Your eyes are closed, your body heavy, but your mind floats somewhere light and gentle. In the space between dreams and memory, and in that space, the village is different. It's not that the filth is gone. The grime in the corners still lingers. The dust still settles between the floorboards. But there's something else now. Sort of understanding, as if the world itself has softened, accepted. You dream of soap, not the gritty, gray chunks made from animal fat and lye, but something smooth and pale, perfumed with crushed violets. It lathers in your hands without effort. Your skin doesn't sting when you use it, and the water it touches turns clear, not murky. You dream of warmth, a small copper tub, just large enough to sit in. Someone has poured warm water over your shoulders. The steam curls up around your face. You breathe it in like a gift. You dream of linen, soft, worn thin by time, but still whole. You wrap it around yourself like a second. Skin, clean, dry, kind. Then the rooster calls, and the dream drifts away. You open your eyes to the real world, the one with damp socks and cold ash, and water that must be fetched before breakfast. Still, you smile, because something of that dream lingers. You rise slowly, your joints murmuring their protest. You sit for a while before standing. There's no rush. The day will wait. When you do go outside, the sky is a pale slate, brushed with the first hints of dawn. The ground is soft from the night's damp, but not muddy. The air smells clean, not fresh, exactly, but rinsed. Washed by wind and silence, the well feels farther than it did yesterday. You think about skipping it, about making do with yesterday's bucket, but that water is cloudy now. Bits of soot from the fire have fallen in. It's fine for washing the floor, not for your face, so you go. Because this is what it means to care for yourself here, not grand gestures, not scented baths, just a walk to the well before sunrise. And when you return, the fire goes on, the same as always. A few sticks, a little patience and breath as it catches. You set your basin down. This morning, you decide to wash more than usual, your face, yes, and your hands, but also your feet, your neck, even your scalp. You heat the water just a little enough to take away the bite. Then you dip the cloth, wring it, and press it to your skin. It is not a bath, but it is enough. You find yourself humming a tune you don't know the words to. Maybe you never did. Maybe no one does anymore. Your arms tingle from the cloths. Scrub. Your cheeks flush with the warmth. You press your forehead to the edge of the basin and breathe. And for a moment, it feels like healing. Not the kind that comes from medicine, but the quiet sort. The kind you earn with your own 2 hands. As the morning grows, the world stirs again. A knock at the door. A neighbor passing by, asking about herbs. Jew. Offer what little you've dried. A pouch of chamomile, a few curled mint leaves. She thanks you, and in return leaves a small lump of tallow wrapped in cloth soap, crude and rough, but precious. You place it on your shelf like treasure. You think of how different life will be in another 100 years. They'll have drains. You imagine hot water from a pipe, sinks with mirrors, cloth that doesn't smell like firewood. They'll think of you as strange, maybe, or sad, or strong, but they won't know what it feels like to cup a little heat in your palm, to carry water like it's gold, to wash your face and call it a blessing. They'll read books about this time. They'll see paintings, maybe even hear stories, but they won't feel the chill in the morning air, or hear the way water sings against a wooden bucket, or know how a single bar of soap can feel like mercy. And that's all right. You aren't here to be remembered. You're here to live, to light the fire again, to scrub the basin clean, to fold your shawl at the end of the day and whisper thanks. Even if no one hears, you reach for the little cloth you keep folded by your pillow. It's soft from use, thinner than it used to be, but it's yours. You wipe your hands and place it gently back. Outside, the light has shifted. The sky is pale gold now, and smoke rises in gentle spirals from chimneys up and down the lane. You close the shutters halfway, letting only the best light in, and then you sit, still, present. You've done enough today. Not everything, but enough. You will carry this moment with you, even when the days get longer and the dirt harder to keep out, even when your back aches and your knuckles sting and your eyes water from the fire, because you've learned something. Cleanliness isn't just about water or soap or cloth. It's about dignity, and you still have yours. Asterisk, evening returns again. Slower this time, as if reluctant to bring the day to a close. The light outside fades into a deep, silvery blue, and the village softens under its quiet blanket. Fires are low. Voices are hushed. Chimney smoke drifts thinly into the air. rising like a prayer. You sit near the window, a shawl over your shoulders, the fabric warm from your own body. The small square of linen in your hand is damp from your final rinse of the day. Just a quick wash before bed, as always. It's never quite enough, but it's something. A gesture, a promise to yourself. The basin still rests on the table beside you. A shallow pool of water with a thin film of ash and soap at its edges. Tomorrow, you'll empty it, scrub it, refill it. The routine holds your days together like stitches in a worn coat. Outside, footsteps pass now and then, boots on stone, hooves clopping slowly past. A cartwheel creaks, but no one calls out, not this late. The village has learned to rest when it can. There's no guarantee that tomorrow will offer peace or lesser cleanliness or ease. So when stillness comes, you take it like bread and hold it close. You light your candle, just one now. The last bit of wax, stubby and soft. You watch it flicker in the draft, painting soft shadows on the walls. And you think of what it has meant to live in this time. In this world where hygiene is not a matter of routine, but resilience. Where every basin of water is fetched with effort, every cloth washed by hand, every bath a negotiation between time, weather, and firewood. It is not that people didn't care. They did. They cared in a way that counts in small, persistent actions. In heated water for a sick child. In combing lice from a sister's hair. In scrubbing a floor before guests arrived, even if the walls still stank of smoke and mold. No. One lived in shining marble halls. Not here. They lived in soot and ash and hope. You think about all the rules you've learned, not the spoken ones, but the quiet lessons passed from one tired hand to another. Never wash in cold if you can wait. For warmth, always clean from top to bottom. Don't waste clean cloth on dirty boots. Use rosemary in the summer, thyme in the winter. Boil water if the stream smells strange. These are the secrets no one writes down, but they're how you survive. You stretch your legs beneath the blanket. The warmth of the hearth has faded, but the stones still hold some heat. You press your feet into them and sigh, a soft one, the kind of sigh that lets something go dot, not regret dot, just the weight of the day. Your hands are cracked again. You run your thumb across your palm and feel the tiny ridge of a healing scrape. Another little wound from the bucket handle or the woodpile. You don't remember when it happened. You rarely do. But the body remembers. Each scar, each callus, each tired breath at the end of a long walk from the well, they all carry something quiet. A memory, a story. Tomorrow you'll wake up early again. You'll stretch and yawn and touch the cold floor with your toes. You'll light the fire. You'll heat the water. You'll wipe down the table. You'll rinse your hair if the sun is kind. You'll wash again because you choose to. Because in this time, in this place, cleanliness is not a luxury. It's a decision, a defiance, a small, personal kind of order in a world that rarely gives it freely. Outside your window, the stars have begun to show. Just a few tucked between the clouds. You lean your head against the wooden frame and look. Up. The sky doesn't care who is clean and who is not. It shines just the same on kings and farmers, on perfumed ladies and children with soot on their cheeks. But you care, and that's what makes the difference. You blow out the candle, the smoke spirals for a moment, then fades. Darkness settles around you like a quilt. The night is full of soft sounds now. A fire popping next door. Someone singing faintly in the distance. The groan of a bed frame as someone shifts beneath their blanket. Life lived quietly. You lie down slowly, pulling the cover over your chest. Your fingers touch the edge of the pillow you washed last week. It still smells faintly of the rosemary you hung near the window. Just a trace. Enough. You close your eyes. The world keeps turning, but for now, you don't need to follow it. You are still. You are safe. And though medieval hygiene never gave comfort easily, tonight you've carved out something gentle from the roughness, a pocket of peace, a moment of softness, a story that's entirely yours. Sleep comes slowly, but it comes. And when it does, it arrives like warm water over tired skin, quiet, complete. And now, our quiet little journey comes to a close. Thank you for walking with me through the dust and steam, the cracked basins and smoky halls, the forgotten routines of a world long gone. It may not have been glamorous, but it was real. And sometimes the gentlest stories are the ones hidden in plain sight. If you're still here, with your eyes heavy and your body soft against the blankets, let yourself drift. No more buckets to carry, no more cold wind, just stillness. And sleep. Before you go, I'd love if you tapped the subscribe button. We tell stories like this every week for the quiet ones who like their history a little sleepy and a little strange. And if you're still awake, tell me in the comments where in the world you're listening from and what time it is there. I read every one. Until next time, rest well, friend. And remember, even in the dirtiest corners of history, there's always a place to pause, breathe, and dream.